Well, framing. You want to know about framing like this? We got raked walls, we got beams being installed, we got walls being tilted, all the components layout, and a whole lot more. So stick around if you want to know more about framing like this. All right, welcome back to the shop build. So we got a few things we're going to be working on. During this video, we're going to be working on the second floor of our guest house and get the sheathing down for that, finishing up some more of the framing for the main shop and as well as the guest house and that sort of thing. So we'll go through all the process of what we're doing for that. And I think right now we're gonna end up starting on the little walls right here in our shop, because the joists, the ceiling joists, they carry over into this other framing. So let's go ahead and get started and enjoy the process. All right, so what we're gonna lay out is we're gonna lay out for this door. This door, it says it's a 2468. So what that means is it's 2 foot 4 inches wide by 6 foot 8 inches tall. And that would be not the rough opening. For doors, interior doors, you need to add an inch to each side. So it's gonna wind up being 2 foot 6 wide, and it's gonna end up being 6 foot 10 tall from the concrete to the header. So you gotta add 2 inches to the height as well for your undercut of your door and for your jamb and your shimming at the head. So coming over here, right here, since I'm right in the corner, I want my door to open up square with this wall. It's gonna be 2 studs. I got a king stud and I got a trimmer. And from there, from that trimmer, I need to add an inch for that's a 3/4 jam and shimming. And then also I need to go over here 2 foot 4, mark my 2 foot 4, and then an inch for my jam and my shimmy. That's where your trimmer is gonna start. For me, I like adding just a little bit extra on my windows for like an extra quarter. Door, it ain't gonna hurt for it to be a slightly wider as well. So I'm gonna add a quarter to that just for a little bit more room for shimming and that sort of thing. So that's where my trimmer's gonna start, and then I got another king stud. T for trimmer, K for king stud. All right, we're up here on the plates themselves. Just so you know, I'm safe. I'm on a ladder for all my critics. But anyhow, my double top plate, it's got a lap on each plate. So they lap and they actually connect each other together. From this joint to my next joint, let's say if this was cut all the way through, has to be a minimum of 4 foot apart from each other. Since I notch it, okay, the distance from there to there, I don't have to worry about that 4 feet. So if you can see my pressure treated plate, I got another wall going in over here, so I'm gonna notch that ahead of time. And as well as I got another plate wall going in there, the next one. So these up on top, I'm gonna notch those. So when I go to frame these joists, I can later on tie the walls together. If it happens to line up just right on top of one of those walls, a joist on top of the walls, then I'll probably drop down and do something for the wall below. But I kind of want, since my concrete's, it's really uneven, it's not perfect, I'd like to have my joists across and then frame to it so that I can adjust my studs to length if I need to be tied up against where the framing's at. So yeah, there's just a couple things. Here's my pickup work. Pickup work is at the end. You're gonna add block and add certain things for connections and whatnot. But where this lower wall connects to this, it calls on the set of plans for a strap, and it calls for blocking in between here. So I'll put those blocking in probably later Which I could do it now. Ain't gonna hurt anything, but usually you're doing it later. In this case, so that the inspector can see it, I'm gonna put it on the outside of my sheathing, and then I'll have to seal over it. All right, so we're up here on the deck, and these boards here, you can see it says this side down. So what's gonna happen is this is gonna flip over and onto that. I'd have to glue it first. Before I do that, I gotta make sure everything's square, which we did, we made it square. But the one more thing you gotta do is you gotta make sure it's straight. This side here, you can see, I got a string line and all the way across there. So this side is nice and straight, at least at the double top plate. This side up here, I got a string line on the inside and I got a string line on the outside. Right there in the middle, it's in just a little bit. So I got a little fix that I want for that. I got a 16-foot 2x6 right there going down to the bottom plate. If I went out there and I stepped on it just a little bit, it should push it over and get it on the line, and then I can nail it so then it's nice and straight, and then I can only start worrying about the sheathing. All right, so we'll go out here, the edge, push down just a little bit. That's looking pretty good. Lift it up. Check it. Oh, George. Yeah, looking good, huh, buddy? Go ahead and pull that string line off, son. Thank you. So now we're straight and we're square. That's what we need to have. So now we just need to use some subfloor adhesive and glue these, put some adhesive out here on the joist, flip them over and nail them down with some ring shank nails, 8-penny nails.
After applying the construction adhesives to the 2x12 joists, we used ring shank nails, 8-penny nails, on a 6 and 12 pattern. What that means is every 6 inches around the perimeters, like on the rim joists, and then a 12-inch on center out in the field. This is also a good time right before you nail to measure to make sure your on center spacing of your joists are on the correct layout. Every other row, make sure you're staggering the seams to make a nice strong subfloor diaphragm.
today we're going to be focusing on this wall, this exterior wall right here. The sheeting, when I tacked those in place, I realized that I need to bring it over one stud. And the main reason I need to do that is so when I get to the end, because that wall is 16 foot long and my sheets are 4 foot wide, I could bring it over. By bringing it over one stud, it'll lap over to this next wall, this next section. Each of these walls will be in 16 foot lengths. So that's the main reason. So we'll pick them up, bring them over a stud and get that all nailed off and finish. Looks like one more sheet that we'll put on it, and cut out the doors, the windows, and then we'll actually, when we go to pick it up, I'm planning on, anyhow, if it'll do it, using the boom lift to lift it up and slide it over, because I got some boards down on the nailed to the plate. Slide it over so it's kind of be tilting here, and then get those boards out of the way to finish raising it up. So my plan is to get this this wall set, and then that wall is a raked wall, because that's where my vaulted ceiling up above is. So we'll be framing that raked wall, and then as well as this raked wall, get those all set so we can, you know, eventually get to the vaulted ceiling on this half here before we continue on framing this direction. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. So let's get this sheeting going. We got our zip wall, and we'll get it all 100% nailed off, and yeah, and keep going.
Before you stand up the walls like we're doing here, you need to make sure you check diagonal to diagonal. This makes it square. In addition to checking for diagonal and making sure it's square, you also need to make sure the bottom and the top are straight in line. So if you apply these sheets and the bottom has a little hump in it, when you stand up the wall, part of the wall will actually be sticking up off of the sole plate. So it's a critical step right here. Having everything nailed right now is much easier than trying to do it in place, as well as cutting out the openings for the door and for the windows. Since there's only two of us, I elected for us to actually stand it with the boom lift. The boom lift has a 500-pound capacity, so this wall, I estimated that it's going to be right around there, but it's only picking up half that weight. The other half is dragging on the ground. Now that we have it moved over in place, we're going to be adjusting it and then using the lift to finalize it and bracing it off with some turnbuckles. Turnbuckles are really nice to be able to adjust it for plumb.
All right, you saw the wall go up, and then you also saw what we were doing is we were measuring in between at the bottom and at the top. We wanted to make sure that we were the same, so it was plumb, which it was, which is great. And then I wanted to double check from the far end all the way over here to make sure we had 28 feet, which we were real close. We were a little bit short. And then on this end, we were a little bit long, but my wall is just slightly out of plumb on this end. So in all, we're actually pretty good. So this wall that goes on that far side, that's what we're framing up right now. And it's a raked wall up at the top for a vaulted ceiling. Okay, so I laid everything out down here on the ground. That's what these red lines are. So we did all the math with the 512 pitch and everything, measured out, got them all down, and then we snapped a line right on top. Okay, so it's this one right here, and we came down 4.5 inches because we're going to have to be down 1.5 inches for our outriggers, our lookouts, and those are 2x4s that extend out for our overhang. So we had to come down that amount, and then also we had to come down for a double top plate. That's why we're coming down that far. Down on the bottom, I actually got 2 boards. You can't see the second one. So we came off the correct amount so that all our studs are the correct length. my bottom plate down there have a layout down there, and this board right here, I transferred the layout to this board, and I actually nailed all the studs where they need to go for the layout, and then I put them all where they need to be, so when I snap these lines, they're in a good spot. So the next thing I need to do is transfer the line down and cut them. So I'll have to pop this board off and prop these up so that I can cut them, but that's the next step. Once I get that all cut, we're gonna drag this whole thing over to that, or maybe even sections of it, over to where I need to go, to where I can just lift it up and put place. So that's the next step. Cut the ends, get a double or a single top plate, get that over there, and the double top plate's going to extend all the way up to the ridge, so it's got to go, you know, extend all the way up to here. I actually laid out where my beam is. You can't really quite see it. It rained, so my lines went away, but yeah, so you got to do a lot of pre-planning. It's kind of one way of doing a raked wall.
There's a good view of laying out where the studs are and the assembly of a window. First off, starting with your king studs, your trimmers are the next one. This opening actually has doubled trimmers. So before you install your doubled king studs as well, nail on your insulated header, or in other cases, just a regular header. I was fortunate enough here on this project, we elected to have insulated headers for more energy efficiency. Nailing the header in place through the king studs, and then applying the second king stud. Make sure when you're nailing on your trimmers that you nail from the window outward, so your nails aren't ever like puncturing through into your window space. Once the header's in place, then you're working on your sill or window sills. So starting on the first cripple on each side, infilling in between so that you can have something to nail your sill to. These are 2x6s, so it's 3 nails per stud on the bottom plate, and as well as 3 nails per stud on the top plate. The good rule of thumb is for every 2 inches of width in our studs, you add a nail. So if it's, in this case, you know, it's a 2x6, so you're doing 3 nails. This wall is a little bit awkward when you're lifting it in place since the top is raked. I had to also move it forward just due to the fact that I'm lifting away from myself, which isn't ideally, but that's just the way it was. Oliver and I needed some help, so about this point is where we had our neighbor Jake. He came over with his friend and helped the final push getting it into place. And from here, now that it's in place, all the weight's just standing there, I can release the boom lift, come down, lower down, and nail the top in place, making sure it's flush on the outside, and finish nailing on both sides actually, and nailing it. Our nail pattern was about 2 nails every 16-inch on center vertically. Now that that wall's in place, it's time to work on sheeting on the outside. We first did measure everything side to side to make sure we had the correct width for everything, which it looked pretty good. And now it's time to apply the sheeting. I actually installed a little nail below the sole plate so that I can rest each sheet onto it. Here we're working off of ladders, which isn't ideal, but it's just the way it is. Sometimes you gotta work off of ladders. Our nail spacing is a 6 and 12. So what that means, again, just like the sheeting of the subfloor, is around the perimeter every 6-inch maximum. You can be closer to the nails, but not further away than 6 inches. And out in the field, anything that means anything that's not around any sort of edge is 12-inch on center.
All right, we're up here on the second floor. As you can see, we got that rake wall in, got it sheeted. And now we're up here on the second floor. We're gonna start doing this little other wall here on the exterior where the rafters come down, sit on, and also this raked wall right here. So we'll be up here working on that. There's gonna be a window that goes in there, so we'll have to get the set of plans and look at that when we go to lay that out. But I needed to do these two walls first because that way my boom lift can reach up here to put on the double top plates and things like that. If I had this rake wall on, or both of these rake walls on this side, then I couldn't reach. So that's kind of the main reasons why we're up here using those. That way I don't have to worry about bringing the lift around the perimeter somehow and trying to do it from the outside. So that's what we're doing. So let's get going on that.
Sure is nice to have some help. Oliver, this young man, this is his first time doing some construction like this, and he's learned a whole lot. Learned to even use a saw correctly. So sure appreciate his help on this project, as well as my son. My son, having him there, he's always been a great help for everything that I've been doing here. So special thanks to these young men.
All right, so right now we're laying out and getting ready to put together this rake wall that goes here. So I wanted to show you all the math that we did ahead of time. So we got our beam here, got our rafters. Our rafters are gonna cross over and lap, and we're gonna nail those, have some blocking in between. And so what you gotta find is your run and your rise. So our rise was 5'10". We had a total rise as well, which I added all this up. What I snapped was our low wall right here, 4'5". It worked out really well, which is pretty awesome, or within an eighth. And then we snapped a line going across for that, and then came up our 5'10", and then we came up our heel height. Our heel height is 9 7/8. So you got to do the math on that to figure that out, so that the seat cut for our rafter is sitting the whole 5.5 inches on top of our walls out here. So figuring all that, doing all that math ahead of time, laying it all out. Okay, got it all laid out, and then we're laying out our window here. That's the header. That's a 4x12 header that the engineer called for, because we got a 6x6 post. It's going to go right under here, just this little guy, with a double trimmer on both sides and double king studs on each side. And then this window is also going to line up, so you got to make sure it works out that way, lines up with the window down below. So that's what we're doing, getting everything spread out. We're going to end up putting up all our studs, and we can actually, once we get them lined up, we can actually measure, cut them, since all our marks are right there on the ground. So Well, this video we covered a lot of things. So we've covered installing the floor joists, the sheeting for the floor joists, how that all went together. We saw some of the walls being stand and how I installed those with you know, minimal labor myself and a couple other guys, good friends, and also how to install and lay out a raked wall. Yeah, so yeah, there's lots that we went over, like the rake wall, the diagonal brace here. You didn't see this one go in, but we had to make sure we had a diagonal brace so this wall is not racking this way. We actually had braces going the other direction, a 2x4 keeping our spacing between, so when we set that beam up there for all our rafters, it didn't want to spread out or move or anything like that. So yeah, it's been a good chunk and a good start to this project. So you want to know more about the rafters and the other walls and the rest of the shop build, stick around for another video. But that's going to be it for this one. So I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned. Make sure you're being safe as best you can out there. It can be very dangerous at times, so think well ahead and think about safety. So I'll see you next time on the shop build.